I was kicked in the stomach by my husband's mistress and miscarried on the street, but he made me book a hotel for her and even sent me their intimate videos to torment me. For 8 long years, I endured humiliation until his mother cried and revealed the truth about that year. It turned out his hatred was a misunderstanding. But when he found out, he went insane, ran over and killed his mistress, and finally knelt in prison begging for my forgiveness. This marriage, I'm ending it for good. At Sterling Jewels' annual jewelry launch event, Robert Sterling's female companion, Tiffany Caldwell, shoved me hard, sending me crashing to the ground. She wore 10-centimeter high heels and stepped directly onto my swollen abdomen. In an instant, crimson blood stained my white skirt. Robert glanced at me, frowning slightly. "You're pregnant. Shouldn't you be resting at our house instead of coming out to put on a show? Are you trying to stir up trouble for Tiffy again? This carpet is stained with your blood. How unlucky. What a spectacle!" With that, he turned and walked away, his arm around Tiffany's waist, without looking back, not even when the sound of the ambulance grew urgent. Cold medical instruments twisted inside me, and the child, finally, couldn't be saved. Clutching my now flat abdomen, I stepped out of the operating room only to see Robert on TV, passionately kissing Tiffany. The stinging pain from my lower abdomen instantly struck my heart. Wiping the cold sweat from my forehead, I looked at Robert's mother standing by the hospital bed. "Mother, it's been 8 years. The Sterling corpse crisis has long been resolved. I truly want this divorce papers. Please, let me leave." One before Robert's mother could reply, the urgent ring of my phone interrupted the silence in the room. Robert's voice on the other end was cold. "Book a hotel for me. Find someone to send over that lace lingerie I bought the other day from our house. If you won't wear it, there are men lining up at my bed outside waiting to wear it." Robert's voice wasn't loud, but it was exceptionally clear in the silent hospital room. A flicker of anger appeared in Robert's mother's eyes. She reached for the phone, wanting to say something, but before she could take it, Robert hung up. Holding the phone, Robert's mother's hand dropped, and she let out a long sigh. "Sarah, ultimately, the Sterling family has wronged you. Mother agrees. Divorce him." Robert's mother's hot tears landed on my palm. "But, Mother wants to ask you for one thing." "Mother, I know. You don't want Robert to know about what happened 8 years ago. Don't worry, I'll keep it buried inside." My words made Robert's mother cry uncontrollably. 8 years ago, the Sterling family went bankrupt, and Robert's father was driven to suicide by debt collectors. Overnight, the once thriving Sterling Corp was hanging by a thread like a stray dog. Everyone knew I loved Robert, so as soon as it happened, Robert's mother rushed to my father's house to beg me to marry Robert. The elderly woman stood outside my room for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, after my repeated insistence, my father agreed to let me marry into the Sterling family. My father also poured everything he had into pulling the Sterling Corp back from the edge. But that night, I learned the secret of the Sterling family's bankruptcy. It was the Caldwell family who ruined them. Both Mr. Caldwell and Tiffany were involved. But Robert's mother didn't want Robert to get involved in that cruel past, so she knelt on the ground, begging my father and me not to tell Robert about it. I deeply understood a mother's desperate love for her son, so even if Robert held Tiffany in his arms today, put her in his bed, since I promised her I would keep the secret, I would. Robert's mother held me close, continuously stroking my pale face. "Child, Bobby doesn't know how to cherish you. It's his misfortune. Your birthday is in 7 days. After we celebrate this birthday with you, Mother will let you leave the Sterling family." I looked at the elderly woman with graying temples before me and nodded. 7 days, then be it. I had endured 8 years already. Afraid of disturbing my rest, Robert's mother bought me dinner and left. As soon as the hospital room door closed, I received a message from Robert on my phone. In the video, he was naked, entangled with a woman whose face I couldn't see. Waves of nauseating sounds came from the phone. I was trembling, about to turn off my phone, when Robert's call came through. His voice on the other end was lazy and disdainful. "Saw the video? If I don't get the hotel room number on my phone before 8, countless videos like that will be sent to your phone. It'll be good for you to learn. See how other women serve your man. Robert, I'll go." Hearing me agree, Robert let out a satisfied sigh on the other end. Sarah Prescott, you remember this. You brought this upon yourself. 8 years ago, you took advantage of the Sterling family's bankruptcy, forced me and Tiffy apart, and married into our house. You should have known the day I married you that you'd never get even a shred of true love from me in this life. He hung up quickly again. 2 lines of bitter tears slid down my cheeks. Robert was right, this was a mess I had created for myself. 8 years ago, I thought if I just had time, I could warm Robert's heart. But today I realized how naive I was back then. In the past 8 years, Robert had countless women in his bed, if not hundreds, then thousands. Before, he at least bothered to hide it from me, but now he was even making me book the hotel myself. I knew if I didn't go, those videos might not just be sent to me. Maybe tomorrow, all the media outlets big and small in Capital City would receive them. The Prescott family, after all, was a century-old enterprise. I didn't want my father to be pushed onto the news again and again because of my trivial matters. It had been like this for years. To make my life difficult, to make me unhappy, Robert seemed willing to risk everything. The love that pierced my bones, I didn't know when it had turned into a soul-devouring hatred. Thinking about it felt so desolate. A large pool of bright red blood suddenly gushed from my lower body. I leaned against the wall, stumbling to clean myself up, then endured the intense pain in my body and left the hospital room. 10 minutes later, I sent the hotel room number to Robert. I casually scrolled up the chat history. Out of the thousands of messages I had sent Robert, I had only received scattered 1 or 2 word replies. I gave a bitter smile at my rearview mirror and tossed my phone onto the seat. Half an hour later, I arrived at his room door carrying the lingerie Robert had bought. The first time Robert brought this kind of lingerie home, I felt nervous and shy, but I didn't resist. But that night, after I put it on, Robert, lost in passion, called out Tiffany's name countless times on my body. Afterward, I watched Robert's back and cried until dawn. So from that day on, I never wore that kind of lingerie again. Robert had too many ways to torment me. If I didn't wear it, he'd make other women wear it, and even send me photos every day as punctually as a good morning or good night message. Oh, you're here? You're a minute late. I'll forgive you today, but don't be late next time. The door was opened from the inside by Robert. He was wearing a loose robe, looking at me mockingly. Perhaps she heard my voice. Tiffany walked up behind Robert, wrapped her arms around his waist, and opened the door wider. Looking at me, she said in a sweet voice, "My dear sister-in-law is so thoughtful, bringing it herself?" Perhaps because the door was opened wider, Robert looked at me, frowned slightly, and pulled my coat open, pointing at my hospital gown. He said coldly, "Just a little fall today and you're wearing this again? Sarah Prescott. You really go all out with your acting." He said this while looking me up and down. I didn't want to cause any more drama about losing the baby, so I quickly picked up my coat from the ground, wrapped it around myself, and started to leave. But just as I turned, a large hand clamped tightly onto me from behind. Robert stepped forward, a smile playing on his lips. "Since you're here, don't leave. Isn't that thoughtful? Stay here tonight and serve me well. Tiffy and I will sleep in the bedroom, and you can sleep on the couch." Thinking about what I was about to face, my stomach started to churn uncontrollably. I struggled with all my might to break free from Robert's hand, but every struggle sent a piercing pain through my lower abdomen. In the end, Robert forcefully dragged me into the room. Late into the night, sounds of male and female pleasure predictably echoed from the bedroom. I covered my ears and turned on the TV. Fate always seemed to enjoy tormenting me relentlessly. The TV was playing the sweet scenes of Robert and Tiffany from earlier that day. I tried to lift my hand to turn off the TV, only to realize my hands were shaking too much to pick anything up. The sounds of intimacy from the room, accompanied by the sweet images on the TV, were too much to bear. I couldn't control myself and started retching, leaning on the couch. The sound echoed around me like a curse all night. My fingernails had long since dug into my palms, tearing the skin, but I seemed unable to feel the pain anymore. I endured like this until dawn. Robert came out of the bedroom with Tiffany, kissing her forehead lingeringly. Then he looked at me, his tone still cold. Go home. Don't you like being Mrs. Sterling? Today, I'll let you be her to your heart's content. After saying that, he lightly stroked Tiffany's cheek a few times and forcefully pulled me out of the hotel. Of course, I knew Robert wouldn't be so kind. As expected, as soon as we exited the hotel, I was surrounded by reporters again. I hadn't been at the launch event yesterday, so I suppose these reporters had a belly full of knives they were eager to stab me with. Robert had brought me here to be humiliated. 3 indeed, when the group of reporters saw me, they swarmed like wolves that had been starving all winter on the prairie, rushing forward like mad. In an instant, cameras and microphones were shoved in my face. Mrs. Sterling, did you see the intimate actions between Mr. Sterling and Ms. Caldwell at the Sterling Corp launch event yesterday in the follow-up reports? Mrs. Sterling, are you and Mr. Sterling experiencing marital problems? Mrs. Sterling, Ms. Caldwell explained that her feelings for Mr. Sterling are merely those between siblings. Do you believe that? Mrs. Sterling, we photographed Ms. Caldwell also staying at this hotel last night, and it seems she entered the room with Mr. Sterling. How is it that the two of you are coming out together this morning? Every question from the reporters started with Mrs. Sterling, but every question was a humiliation of that title. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Robert standing nearby. The look of desperate hatred in his eyes sent chills down my spine. What kind of hatred was it that he would drag me down with him, even if it meant sinking into the mud himself? My head, which hadn't slept all night, felt like it was exploding. I gathered the last of my strength, pushed past the reporters in front of me, and stumbled away, running out. When I reached the first intersection outside the hotel, Robert pulled his car over beside me. Get in if you don't want those reporters following you. I glanced at the camera flashes still flickering behind me and finally got in. Once in the car, I realized there was already a lot of blood staining my legs. I nervously tried to cover the bloodstains, but Robert still saw them. He frowned slightly and turned to look at me. Is the baby okay? I was about to reply when Robert's phone rang. Tiffany's slightly tearful voice slowly flowed from the other end. Bobby, my father's family is urging me to go back for an arranged marriage again. What should I do? My father said he's only giving me a week. Please, think of something. The heartbreak of a young woman always seemed to elicit pity. Indeed, when Robert heard her, he slammed on the brakes, stopping the car by the roadside. After a long silence, he spoke. A week is enough. I'll propose to you. After comforting her for a few more moments, he hung up the phone. The car was suddenly enveloped in a deathly silence. After a long time, Robert turned to look at me, his eyes holding an emotion I couldn't understand. Just playing along with a kid. Don't worry about it. Seeing that I didn't reply, he restarted the car and asked softly, where were we just now? I looked at the cars and people passing by on the street, my mind blank. I replied mechanically to Robert, didn't say anything. I forgot too. Robert nodded, and there was no more talk on the way. It was only then that I finally reacted. My husband was going to propose to another woman, and it just happened to be on the day I was leaving the Sterling family. How ridiculous. For half an hour later, the car stopped in the courtyard of our house. After I got out, Robert stared at my seat for a long time. Perhaps the pool of blood reminded him of the topic we had interrupted. So he quickly took 2 steps forward, grabbed my hand, and said, Sarah, you don't look well. At the event yesterday, are you okay? I tightened my coat slightly without looking back. I'm fine. After saying that, I tried to pull away from Robert's hand and walk into the courtyard. But the next second, Robert suddenly roared, Sarah Prescott, do you have any idea how annoying you are like this? I'm your husband, and you always treat me with such a cold attitude. If you're unhappy about something, you can say it. But acting like this is so irritating. Don't you have any emotions? Robert's sudden outburst startled me. I turned around and stared at Robert, whose face was red with rage, slightly stunned. I didn't understand where Robert's emotion was coming from, or why he felt entitled to it. But I knew if I didn't reply to him today, he wouldn't let me off easily. So I looked at him and said softly, Robert, you can do anything to me, but you shouldn't involve the Prescott family. Today you threw me in front of the reporters, tomorrow my father will be on the news. We grew up in this environment, you know what that means. After all, he helped you by giving up everything. I thought I had chosen the most irrelevant topic to reply to Robert. Robert looked at me, stunned for a moment, but then a huge wave of anger washed over him. He glared at me with bloodshot eyes and roared, "Sarah Prescott, was that help? That was taking advantage of someone when they were down. That was something I gained by ruining my and Tiffy's lives. Shameless! These 8 years, do you know what Tiffy went through? We loved each other so much, and you and your despicable my father forcefully tore us apart. So I'll torment you to death. Your birthday is in 7 days, right? I know. I'm deliberately going to propose to Tiffy on that day. I love her. I'm not acting. I want her to be my wife, the one who isn't legally recognized, but the only wife in my heart. You just keep the title of Mrs. Sterling and live the next life by yourself." And that day, Tiffy stepping on your abdomen, I saw it clearly. I allowed her to. That thing in your belly, even if it were born, I wouldn't give it a single bit of fatherly love. Sarah Prescott, this is what you and my father deserve. After saying that, he shoved me aside, started the car, and drove away. Just as I staggered up from the ground, I received another call from Robert. His tone on the other end was much calmer, carrying his usual cold, mocking tone. "Sarah Prescott, you can personally arrange my proposal ceremony in 7 days. Aren't you dutiful? Don't you have any emotions? Then just go ahead and do it. You'd better put some effort into it. If Tiffy isn't satisfied, I have plenty of ways to put your father on the news every single day." After saying that, he hummed a tune and hung up. I knew Robert was capable of doing it. I pushed open the door and looked at the huge wedding photos of Robert and me in the living room, a bitter smile on my lips. In the photos, Robert didn't have a trace of a smile. His body was stiff and far away from me. I had to use great effort to lean my head on his shoulder. This distance of just a palm's width, I had used 8 years and still couldn't bridge it. He must have been overjoyed when he took wedding photos with Tiffany. I forced myself to get up, took down all the wedding photos in the house, tore the photos to shreds, and burned them to ashes in the courtyard. Then I packed my clothes and sent them to my father's house, asked my father's lawyer to draft the divorce papers and put them in Robert's study. After doing all this, I started arranging Robert's proposal ceremony. For a full week, Robert didn't come back. The hotel was booked, the dress was ordered, the process was planned. Every day, I sent these updates to Robert like a subordinate reporting for work. There was still no reply, but no angry calls came in, so I knew Robert was satisfied, or rather, Tiffany was satisfied. That was fine. At this moment, I only wished to leave smoothly. 7 days later, Robert knelt down and proposed to Tiffany. But before he could put the ring on Tiffany's hand, the ballroom door was suddenly pushed open from the outside. Robert's mother, with graying temples, pointed at Tiffany and shrieked hysterically, "I won't allow her to enter the Sterling family's door. The Sterling family's daughter-in-law can only be Sarah." Robert also got angry. He grabbed Tiffany's hand and questioned his mother loudly, "Why? Why? Mother, even if I die today, I will marry Tiffy and bring her our house." Robert's mother clutched her heart, trembling all over. Looking at Robert, who also had an angry expression, she sobbed, "Son, you ask mother why? It's because she and my father are the murderers who killed my father. It's because mother begged Sarah to marry you back then. Son, you can't be so foolish anymore." Robert had already prepared 10,000 excuses to refute his mother, but his mother's words completely stunned him. He took a step forward towards his mother, only then realizing that his hand was still tightly holding Tiffany's. He had no intention of letting go. He stepped forward to wipe the tears from his mother's eyes and said tremblingly, "Mother, what are you saying? Are you getting old and confused? Or did that dead woman, Sarah Prescott, go to see you? No matter what you say, Sarah Prescott and I are impossible. Letting her be Mrs. Sterling is already the greatest respect I can show her, and it's an explanation to you. I will spend the rest of my life with Tiffy. He didn't believe his mother's words because he had personally verified this matter 8 years ago. Looking at his mother, who was crying and sobbing before him, the scene from their wedding night 8 years ago surfaced in his mind. That day, he looked at the shy Sarah Prescott on the white wedding bedding and asked the question he had been holding in his heart, "Sarah, if we don't get married, will your father still help the Sterling family?" The white wedding bedding made Sarah Prescott's face appear even shyer. Sarah Prescott looked at him for a long time and finally nodded. Robert still remembered that feeling of humiliation clearly. But at that time, the Sterling family had just climbed out of the abyss and their wings were not yet fully formed. Even though Robert felt humiliated, he couldn't do anything about it. So he suppressed the emotions in his heart and looked at Sarah Prescott again, "Mother never interferes with my marriage, but this time she is so insistent. Is it because your father is forcing her?" Robert remembered that when he asked that question, tears welled up in Sarah Prescott's eyes. She seemed to want to say something, but in the end, she said nothing, just lowered her head heavily. But this reaction was enough to give Robert his answer. If she didn't deny it, then it was true. Thinking that his mother, who had just lost her husband, was being forced by Mr. Prescott, Robert's hatred for the woman before him reached its peak. Thinking about the hardships he and Tiffany had endured in their love over the years, in that moment, Robert swore that in this life, even if it cost him his life, he would torment the woman before him to death. She loved him, didn't she? Then he would make sure she never received even a shred of his love. That night, Robert violently vented on Sarah Prescott. In the early morning, Sarah Prescott was rushed to the hospital due to heavy bleeding. Looking at the pale Sarah Prescott lying on the hospital bed because of his violence but without complaint, that was the first time Robert experienced the pleasure of revenge. This feeling was addictive. In the following days, Robert relied on his hatred for the Prescott family, my father and daughter, to fight desperately in the business world. Finally, 3 years later, the Sterling family finally rose again with the help of the Prescott family and Robert's efforts. If in the past few years, Robert was still wary of the Prescott family's power, then after rising again, Robert was completely fearless. He started dating all sorts of women outside recklessly. At first, he always tried to subtly let Sarah Prescott discover these scandalous news. Later, he simply sent her photos directly. To humiliate her, he would occasionally call out Tiffany's name when they were together. He did it deliberately. But what frustrated him was that Sarah Prescott never argued or made a scene with him. At first, Sarah Prescott would secretly shed tears, but later, Sarah Prescott's emotions became increasingly indifferent. Every time he faced Sarah Prescott's coldness, Robert would get very angry. He stubbornly believed that behind this coldness was Sarah Prescott's repentance for the past. So each time, he became more and more extreme than the last. 8 years, over 2,000 days and nights, facing his inhuman torment. If there was such a big hidden reason for the events of that year, why didn't Sarah Prescott say a single word? So this time, his mother coming to stop him must have been Sarah Prescott causing trouble, perhaps even using her my father's influence. Thinking of this, anger flared up in Robert's heart again. He pulled his mother into his arms and gently comforted her. "Mother, today is perhaps like 8 years ago when you forced me to marry Sarah Prescott and bring her our house. There are some things you can't say, but don't worry. The Bobby of today is not the Bobby of 8 years ago. Even if the Prescott family threatens the family business again, don't be afraid. Bobby will handle everything." Robert thought that saying this would surely reassure his mother. But the next second, his mother in his arms suddenly struggled free forcefully and slapped Robert's left cheek. "Animal! How could I have raised such an animal? If you still recognize me as your mother today, then come our house with me. See what that woman next to you did to the Sterling family 8 years ago." The slap stunned Robert. Growing up, his mother had always been loving and had never laid a finger on him. Robert's mother kept saying this while breathing heavily. This time, Robert was truly scared. His mother had a severe heart condition. Since his father passed away, he had been extra careful about his mother's health. Worried that his attitude would truly upset his mother, Robert finally let go of Tiffany's hand and sighed, looking at his mother before him. "Okay, Mother, I'll go our house with you. Please don't get truly angry." Then he turned to Tiffany and comforted her gently. "Tiffy, I'll take Mother our house and come back. Wait here for me, okay?" After saying that, he left with his mother. 6 On the way back, his mother kept wiping away tears in the back seat. Robert had too many frustrations and didn't know how to comfort her. But thinking of his mother's resolute demeanor just now, he was filled with curiosity about what she was about to show him. There was no conversation between mother and son on the way. Soon the car drove into the Sterling family estate. There was a cake with blown-out candles on the table in the center of the living room. Robert knew it was Sarah Prescott's birthday today. Seeing the scene before him, he was even more certain of his guess. Sure enough, his mother showing up at the event today was because that woman, Sarah Prescott, had come to see her. He felt inexplicably relieved. He was about to sit on the couch and get a drink of water when his mother pointed at his father's study and said in a deep voice, "Bobby, come in with me." The hand holding the cup hung in midair. After thinking for a moment, Robert put the cup down, straightened his clothes, and followed his mother into his father's study. When his father was alive, the study was off limits to the family, so even though his father was no longer alive, entering his father's study was a very serious matter. His mother familiarized herself with his father's bookshelf and found the history book his father often read. From the yellowing pages, she carefully took out an envelope. Turning around, she handed it to Robert. When she looked up at Robert again, there were already tears in her eyes. "Look, Bobby, this is the last thing my father left behind." Looking at the yellowed envelope before him, Robert's heart also grew heavy. He followed his mother's example, carefully opening the envelope. A few thin pieces of letter paper fell into his palm. Unfolding them, his father's familiar, strong handwriting appeared before his eyes. "Bobby, my father fought in the business world for half his life and ultimately became a deserter. My father doesn't want you to be like this. The business world is as treacherous as a battlefield. In the future, I hope you are careful everywhere, especially beware of the Caldwell family." It was the Caldwell family, my father and daughter, who personally pushed our Sterling family off the cliff. His father had written 5 full pages of letter paper, clearly detailing the beginning and end of that business war 8 years ago. 8 years ago, it was the Caldwell family who set the trap, making his father risk everything, and finally pulled the rug out from under them, completely crippling the Sterling family. Robert reached out and stroked the letter, 8 years old. His legs went weak, and he leaned against the wall behind him, slumping to the ground. Holding the letter, he looked at his mother and sobbed, "So 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I went to the Prescott family mansion and stood outside Sarah's room for 3 days and 3 nights before my father agreed to your marriage. After my father passed away, overnight, all our friends avoided us. Only the Prescott family. I knelt on the ground and begged Sarah not to tell you about what happened 8 years ago. Mother was worried about you. When will this cycle of revenge end? Mother has already lost my father, I can't lose you too. It was Mother who hurt you, who hurt Sarah." Robert looked at his mother, her mouth opening and closing, feeling his mind go blank. It was like this 8 years ago when his father died. The surroundings suddenly became quiet, as if he was the only person left in the world. The images of Tiffany and Sarah Prescott flickered before him. Everything he had done to Sarah Prescott over the past 8 years flashed before his eyes like a movie. It turned out that for these 8 years, such a frail body had endured so much grievance. "Bobby, quickly go find Sarah and bring her back. She just had a miscarriage surgery a few days ago, and she hasn't eaten anything here today. Mother is worried something will happen to her." His mother's words brought Robert back to his senses. He looked at his mother, frozen again. "Mother, what are you saying? Miscarriage surgery?" His mother looked at Robert in shock. "You didn't know? The baby in Sarah's belly was lost the day of the launch event." His mother's words sent a chill down Robert's spine. No wonder he thought Sarah Prescott had looked as pale as paper these past few days. No wonder he felt Sarah Prescott seemed thinner outside the hotel that day. No wonder she was often bleeding. Thinking of this, Robert stumbled up from the ground, handed the letter in his hand to his mother, and rushed out of the Sterling family estate like a madman. Leaving the Sterling family estate, Robert realized that he didn't know where to find her. After 8 years of marriage, he knew his wife less than a stranger did. But Robert suddenly thought that Sarah had always been around him these past few years and didn't seem to have many friends. Sarah was always sensible and didn't want to worry my father's family, so perhaps she was waiting for him at our house now. Thinking of this, Robert slammed the accelerator and sped towards our house. Soon, Robert parked the car in the courtyard. He didn't even turn off the engine and rushed directly into the room. But what he saw completely shattered the hope that had just sprouted. The huge wedding photos that used to hang in the living room, which he had always hated being there, were now gone. He didn't even change his shoes as he rushed into the house, his heart sinking with each room he searched. Everything that could prove their marriage existed was gone. He went to the walk-in closet, and the cabinets were full of only his clothes. There wasn't a single piece of Sarah's. He walked dejectedly to the study and found two thin pieces of paper on the study desk. He quickly picked up the two pieces of paper. In black and white, the large words "divorce papers" were exceptionally glaring. At the bottom of the last page was Sarah Prescott's delicate signature. The last stroke was written with great force, clearly showing the determination of the person who wrote it. Robert quickly skimmed the content of the divorce papers. It didn't look like a template. Sarah Prescott had itemized everything clearly. Except for the cherished jewelry she had brought when they married, she hadn't taken a single thing from the Sterling family. Yes, she had always been dignified. It was he who was not dignified. It had been 8 years. How had Sarah Prescott endured the heartbreak and his repeated torment? Thinking of this, Robert raised his hand and slapped himself hard twice. This wasn't his mother's fault. On their wedding day, if only he had paid attention, or if he had slowed down for Sarah Prescott even a little bit during these 2,000 days and nights, he would have realized that his wife was never the kind of person who would take advantage of others. But he hadn't. He had been self-absorbed, immersed in the game of hurting her, unable to extricate himself. He truly was an animal. Thinking of this, Robert could no longer remain calm. If she wasn't at our house, then perhaps she was at the Prescott family mansion. Robert knew that going there this time might mean facing a storm of conflict, but compared to the grievances Sarah had suffered by his side all these years, what did that matter? Thinking of this, Robert started the car again and drove towards the Prescott family mansion. In the past, my father-in-law had treated him extremely well. Every time, before his car even reached the gate, the staff would have already opened the courtyard gate. The aroma of his favorite food would always waft towards him. But now, the gate that had always been open for him was tightly shut. He rang the doorbell many times. A staff member came out and looked at him apologetically. "Sir, it's really not convenient today." Robert knew Sarah must be inside, but he didn't have the face to disturb her anymore. He parked the car in front of the Prescott family mansion and sat leaning against the villa wall until dark. In the early morning, a torrential rain poured down, but Robert didn't care anymore. He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to miss even a single second of a chance to talk to Sarah, even if Sarah Prescott would just come out and look at him. Robert sat outside the Prescott family mansion like this for 2 days and 2 nights. Finally, on the morning of the 3rd day, Robert was about to get up to move his stiff right leg when, looking up, he saw that familiar figure in Sarah's bedroom on the 2nd floor through the closed iron gate. He screamed Sarah's name outside the gate like a madman. The figure by the window heard him, but the next second, it disappeared from the window. But Robert had seen it. He saw Sarah's sleeve by the window. Perhaps his wife was crying heartbroken behind that window. In an instant, a feeling of immense heartache surged within him. It was a real, physical pain. It was only then that he realized that the heartache described in books and dramas was real. Everything from the past 8 years flooded his mind again. Over 2,000 days and nights, how many times had Sarah endured such heartache? Thinking of this, Robert's hand slid down the iron gate powerlessly. For the first time, he didn't know what to do. An urgent phone ring interrupted his thoughts. Seeing the call he had once desperately awaited, he hesitated for a moment, but still answered. Tiffany on the other end was as sweet and shy as ever. "Bobby, you promised to marry me and bring me our house. Why haven't you contacted me these past few days? Don't you know how much I miss you?" Robert used to love Tiffany's words, but now they sounded so nauseating. Robert suppressed the urge to kill her and replied in a deep voice, "I meant it. Wait for me at their spot. The woman on the other end was happy to hear Robert's words. She kissed him twice over the phone and hung up. Robert took one last look at that window and left resolutely. He secretly swore in his heart that when he returned this time, he would give Sarah an explanation for the grievances she had suffered over these 8 years. Robert drove the car to their spot, Robert and Tiffany's, with renewed energy. This was a villa he had bought for Tiffany outside our house. They had met secretly here every day. Tiffany was already waiting there. Hearing Robert's car drive into the courtyard, Tiffany came out, her body swaying, wearing the silk robe he had bought. Seeing Robert, she threw herself into his arms. "Bobby, you finally came to see me? Is everything at our house taken care of?" Tiffany's familiar scent wafted over him. Robert couldn't remember how many times he had been intoxicated by the scent. But now, it started to make him feel a little nauseated. He pushed Tiffany away and said coldly, "Tiffany, don't you want to give me an explanation for what happened 8 years ago?" The woman before him was stunned, but then a look of disdain appeared in her eyes as she looked back. "Robert, you're not going to be that childish, are you? What's there to talk about from 8 years ago? Business is like war. My father wasn't capable, so naturally, he was eliminated. You should go ask my father that at his grave. Why are you asking me?" Robert didn't expect Tiffany to be so self-righteous. His tone grew angrier as he looked at her. "Tiffany, if it weren't for your Caldwell family setting a trap, would my father have died? Would our Sterling family have gone bankrupt?" Tiffany let out a sneer. "Robert, my father committed suicide. Are you crazy? Can you honestly say my father didn't set traps for others in his decades of doing business? You're really so childish." Perhaps seeing that Robert was unreasonable, Tiffany, who had always been sweet and shy, completely changed her attitude. She glanced at Robert and was about to leave. In an instant, a huge wave of hatred surged in his heart. Robert took 2 steps back and walked directly to his car. Looking in the direction Tiffany was leaving, he slammed the accelerator. 2 seconds later, the young woman who had just been like a colorful butterfly lay in a pool of blood. Robert still didn't seem satisfied. He reversed and slammed the accelerator again, repeatedly running over her. They met again half a year later. Robert was sentenced to death for intentional injury resulting in death. I saw the man I had loved for 8 years in prison. The man before me had lost his sharp edge, his eyes filled with apology as he looked at me. "Sarah, I'm sorry I wronged you. Don't blame Mother. I've signed the divorce papers. I told Mother that she can't handle the Sterling Corp business, so I'm asking you to take care of it. Sarah, I can't make it up to you in this life. Next life, you torment me. I will willingly accept it and let you torment me for a lifetime." Robert's tears streamed down his face. I thought I would feel heartbroken and sad, but for some reason, I seemed to truly have no emotions when facing him. "Robert, Mother has always been very good to me. Don't worry, I'll take care of her in her old age." I wanted to say something else, but I opened my mouth and gave up. As I left, looking at the clear blue sky outside the prison, I finally knew what I wanted to say. "Robert, next life, let's not meet again."